What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Weekly Daily Podcast. Thanks for being here. It's a beautiful February, 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 Febrero in Spanish, in case you were wondering. It's a beautiful morning, Saturday morning. Genuinely, it's like mid-60s. I went for a walk earlier, and it is, man, I tell you what, nothing cheers you up and just makes you feel alive and connected to this beautiful earth that we're on. Quite like a nice spring weather sunny morning. It's not spring yet, but it felt like it. And I tell you what, gives you a boost. I like it. Feels good. I got to go for a run a little bit later today. Let me see here. Let me see where this volume's at. Oh, wow. I'm going to go down to 70. That's what I think that happened. Okay. All right. Well, if the first part of this podcast is really loud, it's because I had that volume way up for some reason. So we'll see if that gets cut out in editing. If not, it's going to be loud for a minute and 23 seconds. But yeah, went for a walk a little bit ago. I'll tell you guys this. My left buttocks cheek, very sore. Went bowling last night, and you know what? If you're really looking to get a good butt workout once every 2 years, go bowling. You will feel it. You'll feel it in your butt and then in your forearm. I'm terrible at bowling. It's not good. I bowled 3 games, a 131, a 118, and a 132, I believe. Not good. I think I've tapped out. I think the best I've ever done is maybe like 170, 180. You know, it's one of those, it doesn't look that hard, but to be really proficient, you got to put the hours in. I've never put the hours in. Honestly, bowling a 130 or whatever, when you bowl once every 2 years, probably is fine. No bumpers used, okay? All natural. I like my bowling lanes natural. No bumpers. But I don't know. I don't know about you guys. I can't put spin on it. I'm just a straight ball shooter. No spin. Honestly, I'm scared if I do try to spin it, I'll break my wrist. That's a big fear that I have. But also, you can throw it straight and get a strike as well. So I'm sure there's obviously physics to it that make it more beneficial to spin it. But I don't go for the spin. I went for that 12-pound ball, and then I used the 10-pound ball sometimes too, because there was just one 12-pound ball, and I didn't want to wait for it sometimes. So I'd say, give me the 10. Let me miss with the 10. If I miss with the 12 or miss with the 10, what's the difference? But that was fun. It was fun to go bowling. It's always fun to do that once in a while. But my butt hurts a lot, and it's funny. You wake up, you're like, what happened? Did somebody hit me? And you go, oh no, I bowled. But you know what, guys? I got a bunch of stuff to talk about. I've been doing a bunch of shows recently. Sorry, I got a frog in my throat. Been doing a bunch of shows recently. I've been staying busy. It's been good. The last podcast I did, excuse me. Wow, guys. Really got a raspy voice today. And that might be from singing a song. Honestly, I don't know. I've been talking quite a bit, and it hasn't rasped until I hit the recorder button. It hasn't been raspy, so hopefully I can hold out for the next 40 minutes to get an episode here. But real busy recently. I've talked my last podcast. I did it with Ed Bell, fellow comedian. His album will be coming out March 1st, which will be what is today? The 23rd? 24th, 25th? March 1st. It's coming out March 1st, Residual Income. Check it out. Should be a fun, not should be, I've listened to it. It's very good. I know the material. Him and Sammy Anser are both on the album. It's very good. Support the arts. Pay $9.99 or whatever it is, and buy the album. It's very good. But I did a podcast with him talking about behind-the-scenes stuff and what it's like to record a podcast. Excuse me, an album. I'm all over the place. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. But that was last week's episode, and then the week before that. So it's been 2 weeks between me talking about myself, which is what I usually do on here, which is pretty narcissistic, but you know what? That's what it is. That's what we're doing here. We're doing the that's what solo pods are. Just me talking about myself. But the last time, if you're chronologically in order here, I was talking quite a bit over the last month about being on the keto diet, and I am sad to announce, guys, I have retired from the keto diet. I gave up. I stopped. I've had a bunch of rice and bananas and mostly rice and bananas, if I'm being honest, over the last couple of days. I'm not sure what other carbs, but I'm sure I've had some other carbs in there. Had sweet potato fries last night. Those were good. Um, but here's the deal, guys. And honestly, if you guys have done keto, I'd love to hear about it. I felt terrible. I felt genuinely awful. I tried it for a full month, and oh my gosh, I just felt terrible. Like they say that you're supposed to have like a keto flu over the first week or so and just kind of feel under the weather, which I did, which is fine. I've dealt with diet changes and like that's nothing, but a month in and I was having like headaches and migraines just nonstop, low energy. It was tough to get up. Was feeling just mentally not good, just not mentally well. And, I kept saying, like, well, by the end of this week, it'll be good. By the end of this week, it'll be good. And then, by the time I got to like 4 weeks in, I said, I'm done with this. I was feeling pretty good before starting this diet. I was trying to elevate and just be like optimal human being, but I don't need this. I don't need this in my life. So I quit, and I've felt much better since. It's frustrating because I was probably pretty close to, I'm sure I probably was in ketosis, but I was probably lacking magnesium or sodium or potassium, one of the main things with electrolytes, although I was doing my darndest to get it in me. I swear to God, in the morning I would make a spinach and peanut butter and coconut water like smoothie to try to get excuse me. Wow, sorry. Bless me. But I was doing a spinach smoothie to try to get like extra magnesium and potassium and just, it's not very good, but I'm like doing it to try to get whatever I can into my body to fill these voids that apparently I had. And I just couldn't do it. I don't know what it is. I felt terrible. I was excited to try it out. I was excited to feel the benefits of the mental clarity and energy and this and that. And I just felt terrible for the 4 weeks. I was hardly able to exercise. I was, I wasn't being very effective at work. I was probably being quite a burden on friends and people that I'm just yapping about my issues about. I feel terrible. I'm eating a lot of fats and protein, no carb. That's how I talk when I go out in public. I just go real southern and talk about my diet. That's pretty, I'm joking, but that's kind of what it is, actually. So it was probably bothering a bunch of people, and I just couldn't do it anymore. Also, if I'm being honest, dude, you got to make money to like be on certain diets, and the keto diet is no exception. I spent like $500 within like a 2 week span, loading up on like salmon and avocados and just all the like cheeses, expensive foods that you're like, I have to eat these to get sustenance within this diet. And yeah, so I gave up a couple of days ago. I broke down, was not feeling well, had some rice, and I'm feeling better. Feels good to feel better. Maybe in the future I'll try it if I can figure it out fully. I don't know what it was and why I was feeling so terrible. But I never really get headaches. I'm very fortunate. A lot of people get headaches all the time. I don't get headaches very often. But getting headaches is like legitimately the worst. Because if it's bad, like obviously it's very annoying, but if it's like a legitimate kind of bad headache, you might not be able to function at all. or focus on anything like at work, like calling and sending emails and all this stuff. It's just like I don't want to do any of that. So that was truly a burden that I was like, dude, get this. It's honestly looking back, it's kind of crazy. Being like for 4 weeks, I just let myself have like a pretty debilitating headache. I was just like, yeah, it'll go away probably at some point. But if you guys have done keto or other diets that you've really enjoyed or thought about, leave a comment. Let me know. And let me know based off what I said, if you have done keto, what was I doing wrong? Why was it not working? Why did I have such a bad headache? But anyways, I'm looking forward to getting back in the routine because I was in a routine of running and just doing all this healthy stuff and reading and sleeping, and all of that kind of was disappeared over the last month for the most part because my brain wasn't working. My body felt terrible. So looking forward to getting back into that healthy routine, and just probably keeping it a little bit lower carb, not no carb, but just not a ton of carbs. So trying to find that balance where I can still feel, I guess, balanced. Couldn't think of a second word. Looking for that balance where I can feel balanced. That's as good as my brain's working right now. To where I'm just eating food and not having highs and lows with like insulin spikes and dips and this and that. Also tried to bring back coffee a couple of days ago, which I haven't had in like 4 months, and did not feel good. I felt like bad. It was not like I'm like caffeinated and I feel energetic. It was like, I feel like I have the cold sweats and like I'm going to have a panic attack. And not one of the fun ones, Not the panic attacks are fun, but I say that jokingly. But sometimes when you have like too much caffeine or something, you can feel like loopy and kind of crazy, but kind of oddly in a fun way, or maybe not a fun way, but an interesting way. But other times you're just like, dude, I feel not well. That coffee made me feel like that. And then I said, surely that's a fluke. Let's try it again. So yesterday I tried it again. Felt the same way. Felt terrible. Felt very on edge, very anxious. So I don't know that I'm going to go back to the coffee, at least for now, which is a bummer because, big fan of coffee. I got used to not having it over the last couple months, but just the ritual, the taste, the smell, big fan of. So we'll see if I can bring that back. I don't know. Maybe there's some coffee out there that, I don't know. The coffee's maybe, I guess it's a couple months old. Maybe if coffee grinds are too old, then they can get like mold in there or something, and that can, I don't know. I haven't looked too much into it. But yeah, other than that, it's been pretty good. Been very busy with shows. I've been growing my mustache out. I'll probably shave it in about 2 hours. I'm doing a show tonight where I have to check people in, so I'm not sure if I want to show or not to show my mustache. But I've done a bunch of shows, bunch of fun shows over the last couple weeks. Like I mentioned, I did, oh man, been doing a lot of Don't Tells, which has been fun. Hosting a bunch of shows with Don't Tell, and also a local show that does a bunch of brewery shows called Rotating Tap. But if I go back, let's see, this week was one of the busier weeks. I had a show Wednesday, did a show called Jokes and Jams, which is a good friend of the pod, Ethan Everhart runs it. It's like you do comedy and then you sing a song with his band. So he's a comedian and musician in a band. So there was like 4 comics on the show. We all did like 10, 15 minutes of comedy, and then we all had a song that we had rehearsed and practiced, and then we sang that live while the band obviously played it, and then we sang it live. It was very fun. Honestly, it was like very few shows nowadays, I guess, provide like a unique, or there's plenty of like variety shows and stuff, but a lot of times they're kind of whatever. At least in my opinion, there's a bunch of fun ones out there, but not many shows out there put you in a position where you feel excited and kind of vulnerable again. Because doing comedy, we're up all the time. We're getting up, basically every night. We're doing a bunch of shows. We're in front of a ton of people or in front of 2 people, 0 people. Like we do all the situations, and you get kind of used to just performing in whatever type of environment. And you ride the highs. Like when you have a good show, you definitely get that dopamine kick, rush, endorphin boost, whatever you call it. But the more you do it, it feels like you're chasing the dragon, as they say, where you're like trying to have that same feeling that maybe you had when you like did really well for the first time, and it's like this very new, exciting experience. Well, this show kind of gave me that because singing in front of people is puts me in a vulnerable state, but like the energy from the band and the song is just like very fun. It was a fun environment. So I did 10 to 15 minutes of comedy, and then did Turn It Again by the Red Hot Chili Peppers, which is off the Stadium Arcadium record. One of my favorite songs of theirs, which it's kind of not as well known. I'm pretty sure they've never played it live because it's a semi difficult guitar part, but I'm sure that's not the reason that they wouldn't play it. I'm sure, because obviously John Frusciante, the guitarist for the Red Hot Chili Peppers, he's a very proficient guitarist. So I'm sure it's not that. It's probably more to do with the vocals. And Anthony Kiedis, the lead singer, he's like straining on these vocals. It's kind of out of his range, and it's definitely out of my range. So I was a little hesitant about it because I practiced it with the band a couple of days before the show, and I was straining my voice quite a bit. And so I only sang it like 3 times, and I was like, that's it. I'm going to hurt my throat. And then, sang it that night. It strained a little bit, but, it's 4 minutes of singing or whatever, so it wasn't the end of the world. Felt good about it. Was excited. It was cool. Like the sound, everything was fun. It was a lot of fun. So I enjoyed it. Thanks, Ethan, for a fun show. I had to read. I wish I recorded it because I think Ethan was recording with his camera, but it kept overheating, I think, so it would like cut off. And I had my phone. I didn't record the set with my phone because I used my phone to read the lyrics while I was singing because Anthony Kiedis, it's a bunch of random lyrics, and I thought I had it memorized, but then, you sing it live in rehearsal, and you're like, all right, I know almost none of the words other than the chorus. Which is, that's very much same as comedy. You'll like have a bit, quote unquote, memorized. You'll say it in front of the mirror, and you're like, I got it. And then as soon as you get in front of people, like with the microphone in your hands at an open mic or at a show, you're like, I don't remember anything. I couldn't tell you even the topic of the joke that I wanted to say. So that's across the board how it goes. But that was Wednesday. That was super fun. Oh, I forgot. This was the weekend before. This was last Wednesday, that Jokes and Jam show. Going back to the Friday and Saturday before that, I hosted a couple Don't Tell shows, which were very fun. But dude, we've been getting typical Colorado weather, but we've been getting snow the last couple Saturdays. Fortunately, not today so far. Fingers crossed. It's 65 degrees. I'm pretty sure it's not snowing tonight. But got snow on Friday night into Saturday, and I was hosting a show Friday, and the drive to the show, it had like just started, and you could tell the roads were like a little bit slick, but it started dumping during the show, which was a very fun show. It was at a wine bar, full crowd, fun crowd. But afterwards, the roads were covered. It was cold. It was icy, and so it was like just a lot of anxiety driving home. And I was going like 20 miles per hour on the interstate, which honestly, when it's later in the day, like 10 to 11 p.m., it's snowing, not a ton of people are out. And just being able to go on the interstate and go like just super slow, it's not as chaotic or scary for me as if it's, there's times where I've driven where it's snowing and everybody's out on the road and they're all kind of getting caught in it as the road condition deteriorates. And then you're like, okay, there's so many cars around, accidents are going to happen. But when I was driving home, it was funny because it wasn't funny, but the roads were so bad. There was a car on the interstate that was like in the far left-hand lane. And I-25, which is the main interstate here, that goes north to south in Colorado. It's, uh, I think it's 4, maybe 5 lanes in kind of the main portion of and throughout Denver. And so there's a car on the far left hand side, and then I was like 50 yards behind it or something, but in the right hand lane, so a couple lanes away from it, and it just lost traction and did multiple 360s, just moving down the highway all the way from the left hand lane all the way to in front of me. So I had to, I mean, it wasn't like super close, but also it was a situation where I had to move out of my comfortable right hand safe lane that I was in with, with the snow and stuff. So just turning at all, you're kind of like, I'm hesitant, at least when it's icy and stuff like that. So I had to like veer out of the way of that. But that was, I'm sure, happening all over the place. Roads were bad. But then, next day, typical Colorado, you get a little sun, it all melts, and then it's all good to go. But I hosted a show the next night at a hotel. And dude, I feel so dumb. I bought, so the equipment for the Don't Tell, or for just, whenever you're hosting and setting up the show, you have a bunch of equipment. And so for the Don't Tell shows, I have a speaker that's like very heavy. I have a light kit, a bag that has all the wires and mic cables and mic and everything like that, a mic stand, and a light stand tripod. And so it's like 5 things. So it's a bunch of stuff, and especially when you're like downtown or in places where you can't park right beside the comedy room, it is like it's like a workout. It's just you got to carry a bunch of stuff around. So I ended up buying a push cart. It's like this Amazon, you just like fold the thing up, and it's like a moving cart. It's actually very convenient. And I was excited about it. I put it together, and I used it for that hotel Don't Tell at the hotel. But here's the deal. I don't know if you can tell by, just looking at me, I don't have tools. And part of putting together this push cart was you had some screws and some washers that you screwed the wheels onto the main platform to make this push cart. I do not. I do not hath a wrench. So what did I do? I just turned the screws in with my fingers until I could, as tight as I could get them with my fingers. And I said, that's probably good enough, right? Wrong, Ben, because I used the push cart one time. I came back, half the screws are gone. So it was fun while it lasted. Got one use out of it. No, I just need to go to Home Depot, and I found one of the screws on the sidewalk, or I could have just pulled one, obviously, from that's still there. But I'll take that to Home Depot or something and just try to get a couple of them, and I'll go ahead and get a wrench so I can tighten them properly. But I felt pretty foolish. It's one of those things where you're like, oh yeah, I put it together halfway, but it should work, right? And then 6 hours later, you're like, oh yeah, I should have known that wouldn't have worked at all. But I did. It was funny in the hotel show that I did. You have to like park in the parking garage, and then I carted everything to an elevator, and then take the elevator up to whatever level it's on, and then push cart it to the room that we were in. And I was on the elevator, and I'm kind of like, I shimmied myself like in the corner so other people would have room to get in. And this couple gets on, and we go up one level to the level that I'm supposed to be getting off on. But because the way I like had shimmied myself in the corner with this push cart, you in order to like steer it and move it, you kind of have to have like some room to, you just have to have some room to maneuver it and like back out and kind of to get it pointed at the elevator doors. So the door opens, okay, and I'm like not quite able to get to the door, so I accidentally like bang into the wall because I'm trying to like get there before the door shuts. And the couple is there, the guy and the couple, they're standing right in front of the door. He's looking at me, and I literally verbally, I'm like, oh no, like I'm like, oh no, I'm gonna miss the floor. I can't get out. And I kind of like looked to him for like, oh, do you mind putting your hand to stop the door from shutting? And I swear to God, he just like looks at me. He like lets the door like shuts, And then he like half-heartedly sticks his foot out towards the door to be like, "Oh, oh, whoops, we missed it." And that was kind of obnoxious, but it was also very funny because I would totally do that too, where you're just like not paying attention or not really. You're like, this isn't my responsibility. I'm here with my girlfriend or whatever, and then you're just like, oh, sorry. I mean, we've all done that before too, probably when you're in an elevator and somebody's like running towards the elevator, like, hold it for me, please, and you kind of like half-heartedly go, oh, sorry, it shut. Whoops. You'll have to get the next one. Sorry, I need to get to my floor and not wait an extra 15 seconds. But that show went well. I'm trying to work in some. I guess I gotta nothing super new. I've been a little stagnant, as I've said, especially with doing the keto stuff for a month. My brain just genuinely was not functioning. And again, I know people. I wanted it to function. I know people say when you're in ketosis, your brain works better, which I was looking forward to. But whatever it was, whether I was deficient in important vitamins and minerals or whatever it was, I was not there yet, and I felt terrible, and my brain was not working, and so I wasn't. I wasn't reading. I wasn't like watching much TV. I was struggling at work, and I wasn't writing much, or what I wrote was not worth writing or not very good. But I've been trying to the last couple of host sets and shows I've done. I've been trying to throw in maybe a new thing or two, but mostly mix in some older stuff and update the old stuff a little bit to have some maybe new punchlines or just different angles. And also because I'm doing a retirement home show on Monday. So I will have already done it by the time this comes out. So hopefully it goes well. But I'm doing like 20 to 25 clean, which is fine. I've done that plenty of times. But when it's like when it's a retirement home or like a church or something that's like very important to keep it clean versus, sometimes clean if it's in the city or something. They're like, can you do clean? And it's more realistically like a PG-13 thing. So there's just like less anxiety around like don't say something inappropriate because a lot of my jokes are clean, but some of them will maybe have like a little bit dirtier punchline that I'll use sometimes, or sometimes they have like an extended version that might have a part that may be like not super dirty, but not like maybe expected in a church or retirement setting, I guess, or just stuff that's like not relatable. Where you're like, dating apps. You're like, yeah, just that's not a bit you should do at a retirement home. They're probably not in the know about Tinder. But with that said, I've been trying to throw in some like older work jokes and just some older jokes that like were part of my set list up until maybe like a year ago, and then I really did like a full evaluation and dumped a bunch of jokes, and I'm just like, those just aren't good enough. But when in certain circumstances where you have to do longer time, like this retirement home, and keep it very clean, then you just may have to dig into some stuff that you haven't done for a while. So trying to re-memorize those. And some of them, it's interesting doing some of that older stuff where you're like, well, you know what, it's probably going to be funny or better because I'm a better comedian at this point. And if I present it in a good way, maybe it's pretty good. And I would say a lot of it is not that great. So good thing I dropped it. There's a couple things there that I think are all right, but it is funny. When you separate yourself from a bit or a joke for a longer period of time, it makes it easier when you come back to it to be like, oh yeah, that stinks. That's not good. You need to do better than that. So yeah, that's coming up Monday. To go back a little bit, I know I'm jumping around all over the place, but to go through the other shows that I did over the week. So I did the band show, Jokes and Jams, on Wednesday. Thursday, I hosted a show at a brewery at Coal Mine Ave Brewing in Littleton, which I was doing a bunch of those newer jokes. It was a little bit of a tight room, which is fine. I mean, when you're hosting, a lot of times you're starting out and the room can be a little bit tight. But it's also a good hosting in rooms like that, even though it may not be as comfortable as it's certainly not as comfortable as just having a hot crowd where you crush, but it's good to keep you on your toes and learn how to pivot. And I was doing some jokes that I hadn't done in a while. So with a crowd that was kind of like maybe not fully into it, you feel a little bit more anxious as you're delivering stuff, which then makes it a little bit harder, or made it a little bit harder for me to like remember some of these older jokes that I was trying to like recall. But again, yeah, putting yourself like in, not situations to fail, but you don't grow and learn how to pivot and get better as a comic if you're not kind of like in those situations pretty often, if not all the time, where you're like, it's the same thing with doing new material. People talk about it all the time. They're like, well, I just want to crush. It's like, yeah, that's all good and well. You want to crush for 10 minutes, just do the same 10 minutes over and over. But it's like, but if you want to grow as a comic and build more material, you're going to have to start throwing new jokes out there, and maybe they don't go well. And you know what? A lot of times they're not going to go well. But that's what it is. It's just what we're all doing. We're trying to get better. So you gotta throw some new stuff out there. But did that. That's a show that I'm going to be taking over, hosting and booking moving forward. Coal Mine Ave Brewing. Please don't reach out to me and ask for a spot. But I do like that room. For one, one cool thing about that room is they have their own sound system. So all I have to bring is like a mic and a cable and a mic stand and a light. But it's much easier than all the other equipment, like the heavy PA system itself, and then a bunch of other stuff. So it makes it convenient there. And it just, it's one of those rooms where I think it'll be fun because it can maybe be a little bit more of a casual or a lower stakes feel to it, which then, again, like I was saying, learning to like pivot and just be like, have fun in the moment and deal with every moment individually. So it's like, hey, if this crowd is looking for a more silly vibe, let's give them a silly vibe. If they're looking for maybe a little more interactive vibe, let's lean into that. If they just want to see, they seemed specifically on Thursday to be like into more one-liner type jokes, which makes sense because for places where maybe their attention span is shorter jokes help to get people's attention a lot of times. So that is obvious, but it made sense seeing the room and then seeing some people doing one-liners and getting them with that. I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But that was Thursday. That was fun. Friday, which was last night, did a show in the Highlands at Greg's Tap Room. Done that show a couple times now. Actually, I've done it through the iterations because over my 5 years of comedy, there's been multiple different hosts of the show there. It's come, it's gone, it's come back, it's gone again. It's been there off and on for the last 5 years. And that was actually the first place I did a paid spot in January 2020. So I didn't get my first paid spot until over a year into comedy and just before the pandemic, which is really incredible stuff to think that 4 years ago, I did my first paid spot. I got $10 to do 10 minutes. And now over the last 4 years, I've been very fortunate. Don't get me wrong. I've put in a ton of work and a ton of effort, and it's been like very much something that I've been pursuing passionately and doing my best to put in the work and the time to develop this skill set. And over the last 4 years, like right now, I've been very fortunate I'm booked almost every weekend for the next couple months. And then, have some weekday shows here and there as well, to where I'm getting 10 to 15 shows a month. Pretty decent pay for them. And just really been able to understand and learn how to write jokes and learn from a bunch of peers and friends and people that I respect and look up to. And so it's been really interesting. Just looking back, you're like, wow, time flies. It doesn't feel like it's been that long, but also the learning curve of like going from, oh my gosh, I got paid to do comedy. That's incredible, to now being in a position where I'm very fortunate to be booked out enough to where if somebody offers me a show, a lot of times it comes down to, what does it pay? Is it worth my while if I have another show already booked or likely to be booked that night? Am I able to do the show? Does it pay enough? And I don't say that in a, sorry, having a sip of tea. I'm not trying to say that in a pretentious way. I will certainly do, if I don't have a show, I'm still going to plenty of mics. Open mics are obviously, I'm not getting paid. And I'll do a show that doesn't pay anything. I'd rather get paid. I think shows should be paying. But if I don't have anything else going on, I'm certainly not above doing a show that doesn't pay. But with that said, just trying to express my gratitude and say how fortunate I've been to get into some of these positions where I'm having opportunities that are paying decent money, that are now putting me in a position that it's not that I just never thought about it. But if I did think about it 4 years ago, I doubt that I would ever think I would get to the point, certainly at this time probably, where I would just be booked quite a bit and maybe have to turn down shows because it's like I'm already booked or that's not enough money, which is a good spot to be in. All that to be said, Greg's Tap House was the first show I ever did, and so I look fondly on that venue. Look fondly? Is that a phrase? I look upon Anne Hathaway. Is she British? She's not British. She seems like Anne Hathaway, a lot of people are like, she's a smoke show. I don't think so. I think she was almost certainly in drama class, theater. And she's your typical, like, she looks good for theater. And look, she's pretty. She's fine. I don't know. I'm not super. She's fine. I don't know why I got on. I'm like judging people who are like objectively pretty, but I'm like, I don't know. I don't know, man. Anne Hathaway, what are you doing? Interstellar. She's in that movie. One of my favorite movies. She's also in some other movies that, what was she in? Mamma Mia? I think she was in that musical, Les Miserables? Whatever it's called. I watched the first 7 minutes of that and shut it off pretty quick. Not a fan of musicals. Sue me. Look, guys, musicals along with the opera and a lot of other old art, okay, those became big because we didn't have cool art yet, okay? We didn't have movies. We didn't have stand-up comedy. We didn't have phones to just watch reels all day, okay? We had nothing. So you would go watch a theater and they'd sing a musical and you'd be like, this is something to do. This is fun, I guess. And you know what? Now we have fun stuff, but we're still, for the tradition, keeping a lot of this old art around, which I respect and appreciate. But can we just call a spade and say musicals stink, dude? Okay? I don't want to hear you sing. You're like, this is like, oh my gosh, they're breaking up. They're singing together. They're singing off their breakup. Wow, dude, that's so realistic. That happens all the time. I go to work and I'm like, wow, they're singing in the kitchen. They're mad at each other. They had a business disagreement and they're singing their grievances at each other aggressively. No, dude. Okay, that's not real life. Why? Okay, I saw Willy Wonka and I said Timothy Chalamet. I said Chalamet. I said it in a French accent. I said, I like Dune, but I do not like this movie that you have made. Wonka, whatever. The Origins of Wonka. Saw that on Christmas. Almost got in a scuffle on Christmas because there was a weird guy who apparently didn't get enough presents that year. That day. I don't know. He got aggressive because there were like 2 lines and he was like, you guys cut the line. And we were like, oh, they told us to come over here. And he's like, I'm gonna. And he growled at us. And then I started singing my grievances at him because I was like, we might as well do music before this musical. I had no idea it was a musical until I got in there, which easily is much worse than, only thing worse than watching a musical is watching a musical but not knowing that it was going to be a musical. Oh my, dude. Literally, that's one of the hardest pills to swallow. You're like, dude, we've come out to have a fun evening watching a movie with a group of us, the community of friendship surrounding each other, maybe some snacks, some drinks. We're going to have a good time. And they start singing and you go, I've been tricked. I've been duped and I want my money back. Okay? I do not like it. If it's a musical, you better have big, bold font letters saying musical on that. Not only the trailer, but the poster and the ticket. And the person who sells you the ticket better say, hey, before I swipe your credit card, you know this is a musical, right? So you still have a chance to go. I did not know it was a musical. I do not want to go to this movie. What other options do you have? Okay? They don't do that, but that should be a law. I'm against regulation, but I'm all on board for that regulation. Okay? Biden, let's pass that. All right? Biden probably likes musicals because he's 1,000 years old. He probably grew up when musicals were created. So, to be fair, that's basically all of our politicians. They're all 1,050 years old. Somehow they're alive. Their faces are just held together by glue and prosthetics and surgery. And they're like, yeah, dude, we're here for the people, okay? Just like I'm an average Joe, you know? Okay, I've had hair plugs 17 times. I've had surgery on my face. I've got fake teeth, very obviously, but I'm just like an average dude, you know? I'm just like a pretty cool average dude. And you're like, are you? Or are you like taking money from interest groups and just throwing that into surgeries that you don't need? Plastic surgeries. I don't get plastics. It's, you know what? We're aware that plastics are not good for us. They're causing cancers. They're bad for the environment, all this stuff. And people are like, let me get some of that in my face. You know, I heard plastics are like they're really bad and there's chemicals that are like causing these bad things. But let me get some of that in my head. You could fill my lips in and then maybe throw some of that plastic into my nose. Let's see what happens then, you know? I've heard it's like really unhealthy for you, but let me get it like inside of my body permanently. Not just like, some's in the water and I drank it and then it comes out later. No, I want it like in there. I want you to like unsew my skin, put it in, and then sew it back. And then I can take a picture on Instagram and I can post it and go, look at me. Look at me. Look at me. Guys, I got real sassy at the end here. Nobody's probably listening to this point, but if you made it 40 minutes in, that last 4 minutes may or may not have been interesting. I don't know. But sometimes stuff comes out and you go, well, at least it was better than, hey guys, it's 65 degrees out today. It's 65 and it's nice in the sun, and then I comedy shows. So there's a little rant on musicals and plastic surgery and plastic in general. I do not know what started me on that rant, but I will take it back just to land this airplane to the show that I did on Friday, Greg's Tap Room. And then I went to the first show I ever did, and then I don't know how I got into musicals and that. But I did Greg's Tap Room on Friday, which was yesterday as of this recording. And it was okay. I went first. I went bowling after that, so I was trying to get out of there a little quicker than usual. But I went up first. There was maybe 20 people in the crowd, 15, 20 people, and they were all watching. They were trying to have a good time. It was fun. I think I asked too many questions, which I addressed. It was fine, but I was like, sometimes when you're just trying to be in the moment, you just try to connect with people, and you just kind of like, before I go into a bit, like I was doing this bit about coffee, and I'm like, you guys drink, clap your hands if you like coffee. And I was asking, like, what do you guys do? What is your strategy when you're buying coffee? Like, how do you approach buying coffee? What are you looking for in coffee when you're looking at a wall of 50 different brands? And so sometimes I had a couple bits where I'm just like trying to be in the moment, and the people, nobody really wanted to engage, which honestly is very funny because that's like the main difference between allowing you to get in the moment and like connect with people versus not. Because if everybody in the room is like, hey, we don't want you to talk to us, and then you keep throwing out questions and then kind of getting like either like them saying no, I do not want to answer, or them just being kind of indifferent about you asking and not really wanting to give much, then that can kind of really turn the energy of the room. So I was asking them a couple of questions. It was fine. At a certain point I was like, all right, that's the last question. You guys are like, please stop bombarding us with all these questions. But did some of that not newer, but older material I haven't done in a while, clean material. So I ran through some of that. I need to write out the set list, which I will here tomorrow for certain, because it's on Monday. I have to have it ready here in the next couple of days. But it was a fun show. I had a good time at Greg's Tap Room. Tonight, doing another Don't Tell, hosting that show. Next week should be fun. I'm very excited. I can't remember if I have something during the week, but Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I'm going to be featuring at Comic Sense in Boulder. It'll be my first feature weekend at any sort of club, so I'm very excited for that. We'll be trying to get a good tape of like 20 plus minutes, which is something that I've been looking for to be able to send out to clubs and stuff. So excited for that. Got a bunch of stuff coming up after that. I'll try to update my link tree if you guys are interested, just looking at my dates and stuff to see what's coming up if you have any interest in coming to shows in the future. But yeah, please follow me on Instagram if you haven't already, at Ben Dailey Comedy. I've been trying to put out a reel every week and just, slowly killing my soul by trying to chase this algorithm that I hate along with a lot of other people. But, just doing what you got to do, I guess. But other than that, thank you guys for listening. If you listened the whole way through, thank you so much. If you got through the keto talk to get to the musical talk, God bless your heart. That's all I have to say. Thank you guys so much for listening. Appreciate you being here. And I'll see you guys again next week.